Every day on US roadways, about 118 people lose their lives. And it could be that up to 20% of those lives lost are due to drowsy driving. Now, we know impaired driving is not acceptable in our society. But over the last few decades, impaired driving is mostly focused on drunk driving, drugged, or distracted. And during my time at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, within the US Department of Transportation, we believed that there really needed to be a fourth D, drowsy, because drowsy driving is impaired driving. And so now really impaired driving needs to be thought about in terms of drunk, drugged, distracted, and drowsy driving. And one of the things that I like to point out is that not everybody in their car has been drinking or is on drugs, which could be over the counter. It could be prescription, could be illicit. Not everyone's on their phone or distracted, but everyone behind the wheel, to be safe, has to be awake. And even better, alert. And so what's really interesting is the one requirement for sure is that people have to be awake and alert to safely drive their vehicle. And so anything that impairs that ability puts not only you and your life, but the people around you at risk. And so it's really important, having been the administrator of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, not only did we want to talk about the 4Ds, but we talked about why addressing drowsy driving is so important. And there's several ways that NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and the US Department of Transportation, DOT, can help basically save lives and prevent injuries on our roadways related to drowsy driving. So it's critical for us to be talking about drowsy driving as impaired driving. It just validates the fact that it is not acceptable in our society to drive when you're drowsy. Another critical element is we have a lot of education programs about impaired driving, of which there should be similar parallel programs on drowsy driving. So people understand that getting the appropriate sleep, keeping a stable schedule, these things are critical to being able to drive not just awake, but alert. We also know that there are some organizations like MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. 40 years ago, they came on and basically helped our society realize that driving drunk was not acceptable. And over the next 15 years, they probably helped create close to 250 new laws to address drunk driving. There is a similar need for drowsy driving, because if you have laws, that gives you an opportunity for high visibility enforcement for us to go after folks who are driving drowsy. And again, they're not just a risk to themselves, they're a risk to everyone else on the road as well. Another thing that's really important to realize is that, if somebody gets pulled over because they think they've been drinking alcohol, we do have a breathalyzer. And we basically have an opportunity to test that breath alcohol content. Unfortunately, we do not have a fatiguealyzer. And so that's one of the challenges we have with drowsy driving is if someone gets pulled over, we don't really have a roadside test to determine whether or not they're impaired due to drowsy driving. So again, another role for NHTSA and DOT is to help us develop methodology so that we can test not just for enforcement, but for helping people understand when they shouldn't be on the road drowsy driving. The last thing I just want to say is, I think anybody would get behind the wheel, you need your hands on the wheel, your mind in the game, and being vigilant and alert all the time. Anything that impairs you in any way puts you and those around you, including the family that you may have in your car, your friends, etc., at risk for losing a life or a serious injury. And so one of the things I love literally about Drowsy Driving Prevention Week is the fact we finally and are absolutely focused on making sure that people know not what the risks are, we understand what those are. What's more important is there's a chance for everyone to get educated about what it means to get appropriate sleep, keep a stable schedule, and make sure that when you're behind the wheel, you're alert, awake, and at your peak performance.